May 1st, everyone, and welcome back to T's Theses. For today's video, I have for you 4 horror novels that are set to be released this May, and I am really hoping that out of these 4 that we find one, at least one, that is going to scare us, because you may remember that back in September, I chose 4 horror novels that were supposed to be the scariest novels of 2022. And unfortunately, after reading all 4, I realized that none of them were scary. In fact, some of them should not have even been listed as horror novels because they weren't scary at all. They weren't even horror centered. So I am hoping that out of the 4 that I have for you today, that at least one of them is scary. So first up, I have for you The Salt Grows Heavy by author Cassandra Call. The blurb for this book states that you may think you know how the fairy tale goes. A mermaid comes to shore and weds the prince. But what the fable forgets is that mermaids have teeth. And now her daughters have devoured the kingdom and burned it to ashes. On the run, the mermaid is joined by a mysterious plague doctor with a darkness of his own. Deep in the eerie snow-crusted forest, the pair stumble upon a village of ageless children who thirst for blood and the 3 spirits who control them. The mermaid and the doctor must embrace the cruelest parts of their true nature if they hope to survive. So the first thing I think about when I read this blurb is Nosferatu's, where you have the guy who's ageless as long as he continues kidnapping these kids and taking them off to Christmas land. And as he's taking them in his hearse to Christmas land, how the kids, their teeth are falling out and they become fangs. And the only way for these children to survive is for them to feed off of flesh. And I did enjoy watching that series, and I was really hoping for another season because I wanted to find out what happened to the daughter in the story. However, I'm not really sure if this is something that I want to read. I do enjoy fables and I do enjoy horror, but I'm not really sure if the two should mix. When I think about fables and horrors joining together, it makes me think of like The Leprechaun. And The Leprechaun, even though it's supposed to be a horror novel, is more comedic. Also, after reading the blurb, I kind of feel like I may have already figured it out. We have a mermaid with teeth, and we have a doctor who deals with plagues. So I'm sure they're going to put their knowledge together and maybe defeat these children and the 3 spirits that are over them. Like I said, I'm not sure if I want to add this book to my to be read file, but then again, that's just me. Everybody has different tastes. You might find this book interesting. So if any of you decide to pick up a copy and you did like the book, let me know. So next up we have Conjuring the Witch by author Jessica Leonard. And this book is also set to be released on May 2nd. And it is only 192 pages. So for this blurb, it states, "There are witches in the woods. These are the words the Reverend of the Leland Assembly of Our Lord repeats to his parishioners each week. Steve and Nicole Warby thinks it's just a metaphor until Nicole takes a walk in those woods and comes back changed. Something came out of them with her, and the simple small town life they've always known is forever altered when they discover the dark secrets buried deep and those intent on keeping them there. Fearing for his wife's sanity and his own comfortable status in the church, Steve is unsure if he wants to help or ignore the problems. The Reverend believes there are witches in the woods, and he thinks Nicole is only the most recent. Conjuring the Witch is a dark, haunted story about what those in power are willing to do to stay in power, and the sins we convince ourselves are forgivable." So I don't really know what I feel about this book. It is listed as a horror novel and as a suspense thriller. It kind of conjures up some things for me. I'm kind of wondering, is it really a horror novel, or is it going to end up being one of those M. Night Shyamalan things where The Village, where we're supposed to think it's a horror novel and we find out that there's some kind of sinister things going on in the background where the Reverend is trying to keep his people on the straight and narrow and he's telling them things that aren't true to kind of, keep them in line, trying to be over them, because it says that what the people in power are willing to do to stay in power. So I don't know. I may consider it. I may try to put aside any, preconceived notions that this might not be a horror novel, because I am kind of curious to find out what happened to Nicole when she walked out into the woods, right? Why is she acting strange? I don't know. You guys let me know. What do you think? Should I read it? Are you considering reading it? I might consider adding it to my to be read file and might throw it in there before the year ends. Next, we have The Devil's Pocketbook, and this is set to be released on May 23rd, and it is 308 pages. For this blurb, it states, Eric and Laura are in mourning for their daughter, who was born incompatible with life. To get away from their suffocating grief and the ever-present shadow their daughter has cast in their lives since passing, and desperately trying to recover their increasingly rocky relationship, they take a trip to the seaside town of Popera in Cornwall. But no sooner have they arrived than they realize that their grief cannot be so easily eluded. Drawn to the waters, Eric and Laura discover a large devil's pocketbook, and inside the miracle child they could never have, Celia. This seems like it's more along the lines of the type of horror books that I like to read, because we already know this cannot end well, right? I mean, you're out on the shore, you find a devil's pocketbook. I'm not even really sure what that means, but inside the pocketbook is a miracle child. What makes it a miracle child? Why is a random baby inside of a pocketbook a miracle child? But people do desperate things for desperate reasons. They're trying to save their marriage. They're in need of a baby to console. But of course, it's in a devil's pocketbook. Most likely is one of those things that you got to sell your soul in order to get the thing that you want most in life. And of course, selling your soul to the devil, unless you've got this great lawyer that's going to get you out of it, is never a good thing. So I'm excited to see where this book is going to go. This will be a book that I plan to read. So next up, we have The World Belongs to Us, an anthology of horror stories about bugs. This book is a collection of authors and where they tell scary stories about bugs and other slimy things. I don't know if I'm going to read this. I hate slithering things. My boyfriend is always trying to tell me about the lizards and snakes in the neighbor's yard, and I'm always telling him, stop telling me this, and he thinks I need to be informed, and I'm like, I don't want to hear this, because you already know, once somebody brings this stuff up, then you're going to see it. I choose to believe that these things do not exist. I'm not so sure that I can handle a book about slimy things and bugs. But then again, I know it's going to keep me up at night. So this book is 182 pages and it comes out on May 23rd. So the blurb for this book states that This World Belongs to Us is an anthology of horror stories about bugs writ large. We're not scientists, so spiders and slugs and scorpions, oh my, are in here too. A child pays for thoughtless action for the rest of her life. A Lothario mistreats the wrong woman. A hunter tracks a horrifying monster to the edge of reality. Space larvae learn to be human. An influencer hawks his year's most popular accessory. A prisoner in solitary makes a new friend. Bugs, right? And more and more. This collection will terrify you with 19 stories about the creepy crawlies that were here before us and will be here long after we're gone. Okay. These stories are featured by Bram Stoker Award winners. So some of these authors have won awards from a Bram Stoker award, and we all know who Bram Stoker is. So if they've won an award, I cannot imagine what these stories are going to be like. I don't know. I might give it a try. I might get a copy of the book to say I have a copy of the book, and I'm going to try at least 1 or 2 stories to see where this goes. But if I start seeing things that are not there, bugs, or I'll wake up in the middle of the night feeling like something is crawling on my face, I'm going to put the book down and I am not picking it back up. So those are all the books that I have for you today. Let me know what you think, and let me know if you've run across any horror novels that you know of that are coming out this month that I don't know of. But I am curious. 2 out of the 3 I think might end up being decent reads. So I am excited to see where these stories go. So thank you guys again for sticking around. And until next time, you guys take care, stay safe, and try to do something nice for a stranger so we can all do our part to make this world a better place.